Chapter 3060. She wasn't bothered by this. Other than feeling a little sour, she didn't have any other thoughts. The only thing she was bothered about was that the beauty pill had failed. Now that the system had given her a reward for the beauty pill, there was a 99% chance that it would fail. There was still half a month before the midterm exams. Lin Manman and Yen Geng got closer again. When she was with Yen Geng, she either discussed her studies or asked him all sorts of questions about the bulletin board. Yen Geng was also a real person. He could feel that Lin Manman's friendliness towards him seemed to be because she wanted to ask him questions. Other than this, Lin Manman would also draw the bulletin board with him. For the rest of the time, she wouldn't interact with him much. Yen Geng was a little speechless. He had never expected that one day he would attract female classmates because of his results. He also didn't expect that there would be a female classmate who didn't care about his appearance and wanted his tutoring lessons. Because of this, the little bit of good feelings he had for Lin Manman was also destroyed by the utilitarianism she showed every time she wanted him to teach her questions. He didn't refuse to help Lin Manman because she had helped him in the past. Other than this, Lin Manman was considered a more enthusiastic classmate. From time to time, he would secretly pay attention to Tang Guo. He realized that Tang Guo didn't want to get close to him at all. During lunch, she would no longer stand in front of his desk and ask him coldly if he wanted to eat. Now Tang Guo would eat with Lien Jian. He didn't know when, but the two of them had developed a tacit understanding. After lunch, they would go to the canteen together. Many people even suspected that there was something between Tang Guo and Lien Jian. But they watched them every day and didn't find anything ambiguous between the two of them. Lin Manman had also tried to get close to Bai Zhan recently, but she had failed. There were a few times when she secretly reminded Bai Zhan that there were people from the student union outside. Although Bai Zhan had woken up, he was still very cold to her. This made Lin Manman grit her teeth, especially when Bai Zhan saw her and hurriedly avoided her. He even covered his eyes carelessly. It hurt her heart. She had already decided that after this main mission was completed, she would never talk to Bai Zhan again. But as a person who cared about appearances, Bai Zhan didn't want to interact with Lin Manman at all. Hence, her main mission was still far away in the future. Tang Guo saw all of this in her eyes. According to the original plot, Lin Manman had indeed become close to Bai Zhan because she had reminded him that there were people checking outside. In the beginning, Bai Zhan also despised Lin Manman. Later on, when Lin Manman became prettier, Bai Zhan started to notice her existence. He slowly understood her and started to like her. But Lin Manman was also a little vengeful, so it took Bai Zhan a lot of effort before he finally managed to woo her. But now that Lin Manman did not have a beautiful face, it was impossible for them to be too familiar with her. Tomorrow was the midterm exams. Lin Manman was very nervous. At the same time, she felt a little hopeless. Her chances of winning were very, very small. On the day of the midterm exam, Tang Guo woke up early. She didn't deliberately rush early, nor did she deliberately go too late, because something would happen on the way. When the car passed by an alley, she would bump into Lin Manman. Or rather, she would see Lin Manman's figure from afar. Something would happen here that would cause the original owner to be disliked even more by her classmates. Vertex. Chapter 3061. There were no surveillance cameras in this alley. There should have been evidence of what the original owner had seen. It was the dashcam of this car. But because this driver was Chun Yunshu and Yu Ting's informant, the dashcam was destroyed by the greedy driver when she needed it. She heard that the driver had been pestering Yu Ting and Chun Yunshu recently. After all, because of them, he had lost a high-paying job. Now that he had something on them, he had gotten a lot of money from the two of them. But Chun Yunshu and Yu Ting weren't easy to deal with. They probably had a backup plan to deal with the greedy driver. Tang Guo didn't intend to care about this. She was waiting for them to bite each other. Back then, the original owner was at a disadvantage because there were no cameras here. Secondly, it was early in the morning and there weren't many people here. Thirdly, the driver destroyed the dashcam. When he testified, he said that he was driving seriously and didn't see clearly. The police agreed with his statement. Drive slowly later, Tang Guo said to the driver. Although the driver didn't know why Tang Guo said that, He still did as she said. This high-paying job had to support his whole family. He cherished it. It wasn't a difficult request. Miss Tang had always been easy to talk to. Just as they were about to reach the entrance of the alley, an old man happened to pass by the side of the road. At this moment, a bicycle rushed out of the alley. Although it didn't directly knock down the old man, it was still a bicycle. Although the old man didn't hit the old man directly, he was frightened and fell to the ground. The person riding the bicycle was wearing a school uniform. Tang Guo was very familiar with it. It was her school uniform. Because of inertia, that person and the old man also fell down. They also fell down together with the car right next to the old man. When Tang Guo's car approached, the old man and the student were in a conflict. Stop the car. She opened the car door and slowly walked over. At this moment, Lin Man also rode out of the alley. Sir, please let me go. I'm really just a student. Today is the midterm exam. If you don't let me go, what if I miss the exam? The male student in the school uniform said with a pitiful look on his face. If Tang Guo hadn't seen it clearly just now, she would have really believed that it was the unforgiving old man who was trying to extort money from him. You know how to lie at such a young age. You did something wrong, yet you still refuse to admit it. What did your parents teach you? If you don't make things clear today, you're not allowed to leave. The old man seemed to be very angry. It was clearly this male student who had scared him to the point that he fell to the ground, but he still refused to admit it. He was even slandered as a scammer. He was furious. This old man has lived an open and above-board life. I don't care about scamming. If you want to leave today, you have to apologize first. In fact, the old man's leg had already been broken, which was why he hadn't stood up from the ground. However, that male classmate did think that he was trying to extort money. His family was not well off. If he was really blackmailed, he did not know how much money he would have to pay. He naturally thought that the other party was trying to extort money. He didn't touch the other party in the first place, and the other party fell by himself. Sir, it's really not good to extort money. Don't bully an honest student. I saw it from behind. This student didn't touch you at all. You fell here. I was behind this student and saw it with my own eyes. His car didn't touch you. The peak. Chapter 3062. Lin Man came out and told him what she had seen. Seeing that the old man was so angry that his face turned red, she said, "If you're so unreasonable, why don't we call the police? We'll let the police handle this matter. They'll definitely be able to check whether this student touched you or not. If he had touched you, there would have been traces of clothes on the bike." From Lin Man's point of view, she thought that this old man was a scammer. But in the plot, the original owner saw with her own eyes that the male student did not brake and sped out. If the old man had not dodged in time, he might have really hit him. In the plot, the old man did not want to make things difficult for this student, but this student denied his mistake and even accused him of being a scammer. In the end, the original owner had no way to prove his innocence, causing the people around the old man to think that he was a scammer. His reputation was ruined, his leg was broken, and he died of depression. The original owner was also disliked by the school because of this. They thought that she was speaking up for the bad guy and did not distinguish between right and wrong. Lin Man was liked by her classmates because of this, especially this male student whom she had helped. He would be her loyal fan in the future. If anyone dared to say anything bad about Lin Man, he would definitely rebuke them. I've already called the police. Tang Guo did not want to miss the midterm exams, but now it seemed that she still had to delay some time. She calculated the time. If she rushed to school now, she still had close to an hour of free time. If the police came and handled it quickly, it would not take long. In the end, she would be late for the exams. As long as she was given 20 minutes, she could easily finish any of the papers no matter which subject it was. System. So what if you're a top student? Tang Guo looked at the old man on the ground and said, "Old man, I've already called the ambulance for you. Don't worry, I saw it just now. You didn't scam me." Perhaps it was Tang Guo's comforting words that made the old man's face turn red. He snorted coldly at the male student and Lin Man. When he looked at Tang Guo again, he sighed. Thank you, young lady. If someone really said that I was a scammer, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep my integrity in my old age. He had been a decent person all his life. At such an old age, he still had to be slandered like this. It was simply infuriating, especially when he looked around and saw that there were no cameras around. His heart turned cold. There were more people around them. Many people asked what was going on. The male student was so anxious that his eyes turned red. Everyone around him thought that the old man was a scammer. Even if he was a scammer, the scammer, Tangua, was a scammer. The old man was angry again. Sir, don't be angry. Let's wait for the police to come. After all, the old man was the old man first. Old people's bones were hard and would break easily if they fell. If it wasn't treated in time, there would be repercussions. I'm not leaving. Don't touch me. I want to wait for the police. Get out of the way. Don't damage the scene. Seeing that the paramedics were coming over to carry him, the old man did not cooperate at all. Suddenly, he remembered that these people were here to save him, so his tone softened a little. Why don't you guys wait for a while? I'm fine. If you guys come over and carry me and destroy the scene, how can I prove my innocence later? He had been a decent person all his life. What he cared about the most was his reputation. If he could not prove it, how could he hide his face? Peek. Chapter 3063. No matter how the medical staff tried to persuade him, the old man refused to move. Because these people were here to help him, they were not like the passersby who pointed at him and said that he was shameless, a scammer who bullied a student. Therefore, his attitude was obviously much better. Comrade, if I've delayed you, you can go back first. After this matter is settled, I'll take a taxi to the hospital myself. The medical staff was also speechless. They had never seen such a stubborn old man. If he did not cooperate, they did not care about him. The old man's body was not good. If he hurt himself while struggling, it would be even worse. Fortunately, the police came quickly and did not make them wait for too long. After the police came, the old man finally relented. He was willing to let the medical staff treat his injuries. He was not willing to go to the hospital at all. I'm going to wait here. So many people saw it today. They said that I scammed the student. I can't afford to lose face like this. Police comrade, you must prove my innocence. It doesn't matter whether my leg is injured or not. The most important thing is to find out the truth. The old man looked at the boy with a serious face. You've learned how to lie at such a young age. This is unacceptable. You lied today and said that an old man like me is a scammer. If something important happens in the future, you don't know how much harm a lie will bring. The old man's expression was very fierce. People would think that he was a rude and unreasonable person. Even though he said it so confidently, the onlookers still did not believe him. They even thought that he was a shameless person who refused to admit it when there were so many people around, especially when he said that his fall was caused by this student. It was even more disgusting. They all thought that there were too many bad old people in this day and age. These students were really pitiful. Previously, there had been a case where a student helped an old man and was scammed in the end. In short, they did not have a good impression of these scammers. The police had already checked the scene and questioned the old man. The old man still said that he was not a scammer. The reason he fell was because he was frightened by the boy who suddenly rushed out and dodged. If he had not dodged quickly, he would have been hit. The boy still said the same as before. I was riding my bicycle out. Who knew that this old man would suddenly rush out? I dodged to the side, but I didn't expect him to still fall. When he said that, his face was very pale. The people around him thought that he was frightened. Even the police couldn't tell the truth. This was because they had dealt with the matter of the elderly scamming and blackmailing people. It was not just one or two cases. It was a common occurrence. Students were thin-skinned, and the boy's face was pale. They also thought that he was frightened. Then it was Lin Manman's turn. I did see it with my own eyes, Lin Manman emphasized. I was right behind this classmate, and I saw that he didn't bump into the old man. Lin Manman didn't have a good impression of these old people who were shameless and refused to admit it. Hence, when she criticized them, her words were more harsh. "Old man, this student didn't even touch you. We still have to take the midterm exam today. You can't take advantage of a student just because he's honest and easy to bully, right?" In Lin Manman's impression, scammers were all old people. Vertex. Chapter 3064. She also subconsciously thought that this fierce-looking old man with a bad attitude was definitely a scammer. Now, he kept saying that this male classmate had scared him and caused him to fall. This was obviously a scammer trying to extort money. "This classmate? Do you know each other?" Lin Manman shook her head. "I don't know him, but looking at his school uniform, he should be from our school. I didn't lie. I saw this situation behind him." After saying that, she glanced at Tangua. She remembered that Tangua seemed to be on the old man's side just now. She didn't like interacting with Tangua to begin with. She even disliked her a little. Now she disliked her even more. She was actually helping a shameless old man bully an honest classmate. "Are there any other witnesses at the scene?" The onlookers all shook their heads. It was early in the morning and this alley wasn't a big road. Hence, there weren't many people passing by. But now, there were more people passing by. It had been so long and there were less than 10 onlookers. Hence, there were no witnesses. "I saw it too." Tangua's voice attracted everyone's attention. The old man hadn't said anything because Tangua had trusted him previously. Seeing that Tangua had spoken, he heaved a sigh of relief. But now, the other party had a witness. It didn't seem like he was lying. Even if Tangua said that it wasn't his fault. If there wasn't any substantial evidence, there was no way to prove his innocence. Regarding this, the old man's face was full of worry. When the onlookers saw this, they thought that he was guilty. "This classmate, may I know what you saw?" "I saw this old man walking on the road. At the entrance of this alley, a bicycle suddenly rushed out. If the old man hadn't dodged quickly, he would have been hit." Tangua's description was very detailed. This classmate is lying. His bicycle kept rushing out. He didn't dodge at all. She remembered that in the original plot. Because of this incident, the old man was criticized by others and couldn't raise his head. Because of this, the treatment of his leg was delayed and he became a cripple. His children also thought that he was a scammer and felt a little embarrassed. Although they didn't say anything, their cold attitudes still made the old man very disappointed. In the end, the old man died of depression. The male student saw the old man being attacked and was afraid of being blamed, so he did not want to tell the truth. In the end, the old man died of depression. The boy continued to go to school, as if he was hiding this secret forever. She didn't know if his conscience hurt or not, but he had such a clear conscience. Hearing Tangua's words, the old man's fierce expression finally softened a lot. Fortunately, there were still some of his classmates who could see clearly. As long as someone believed that he was innocent, things didn't seem so bad. The current situation was that both sides had witnesses, and it didn't seem like they were lying. The police had even determined that it was possible that there was a problem with the angle, causing the witnesses on both sides to see different things. No matter what, one of the parties must be lying. But now they had no evidence to prove who was lying. They were about to say that they would investigate this matter slowly and look for witnesses or if there were any surveillance cameras. Peek. Chapter 3065. Tangua's chauffeur came over. "Miss, do you want to take out the dashcam recorder now? Bring it over. I saw that the policemen didn't bring their laptops. I have a laptop in the back seat. Let's take a look at it now and clear the old man's name." This old man was very stubborn. If they didn't clear his name on the spot, he would probably die of anger. When the chauffeur mentioned the dashcam recorder, the policeman heaved a sigh of relief. They looked at Tangua speechlessly. If they had a dashcam recorder, they should have taken it out earlier. The people around also whispered. They felt that there was a chance for this matter to turn around. The old man almost slapped his thigh and laughed out loud. The dashcam recorder was good. The country was developing well. Such a high-tech thing was really good. It would be great if it could prove his innocence. As for the boy, his face was already pale. With one look, the policeman understood that the old man should be innocent. The boy should be the one to bear the responsibility. Lin Manman was also a little stunned. How did they get the dashcam recorder? Because of the old man's stubbornness, they took a look at the dashcam recorder on the spot. After looking at it, the situation was exactly as the old man and Tangwa said. The boy didn't dodge when he came out at all. He simply charged forward. When he reached the corner of the alley, he didn't even slow down. If the old man hadn't dodged nimbly, the situation would have been worse. Please take a look. I wouldn't do such a thing. You student, don't lie in the future, the old man said coldly. He turned his head away. He really didn't want to see the boy. Doctor, please send me to the hospital. I'm sorry for wasting your time just now. He didn't want to be unreasonable. He didn't even want the boy to take responsibility. The onlookers started to point at the male student and whisper among themselves. Tangwa didn't care about this anymore. Today was the midterm exam. The exam had already started. She had to go. She turned back to the car. The chauffeur drove the car away. Lin Man felt a little embarrassed. She rode her bicycle and quickly chased after him. She didn't forget that there was an exam today. It seemed like the exam had already started. God, the exam had already started. Did she have a chance to surpass Tangwa? She felt that she had no chance. When Tangwa arrived at the examination hall, she explained the situation and the teacher hurriedly let her in. When she arrived at the examination hall, there was still half the time left. She could make it in time. She sat in the examination hall for more than 10 minutes before Lin Man finally walked in, panting heavily. The midterm exams were not that strict, so the teacher still let her in. But in the end, the results of the two were different. Tangwa finished the test paper and checked it again. Lin Man had only finished half of her test paper. After she was done, she looked dejected. Thinking that Tangwa might not have finished the test paper, she secretly wondered if Tangwa could still get first place this time. If the first place was delayed because of this with the other party's personality, he would probably be angry. Thinking about what had happened in the morning, Lin Man still didn't want to face Tangwa. From her angle, she did see that the boy did not hit the old man. He didn't expect there to be so many twists and turns in the story. It was such a coincidence that Tangwa had a dashcam. Come to think of it, why didn't she see this in the plot? Vertex. Chapter 3066. At this point in time, she shouldn't have given up on her studies. What happened in the morning was just an interlude. As for what happened between the old man and her classmate, Tangwa didn't pay attention to it. She only heard from the system that someone had taken a video of the scene. Now, this matter was being hyped up on the internet and it was a hot topic. Especially when he took out the dashcam at the end, it made people understand that not all old people were bad and wanted to scam others. That old man's temper was a little bad, but after such a thing happened, probably no one's temper would be good. But in the end, he didn't go overboard. Reality proved that before there was evidence to prove the truth, it was really hard to conclude that the old man was a scammer and the student was innocent. Once those videos were uploaded, the system helped to edit Tangwa's face so that it was more blurred. Anyway, there was no way to recognize her. As for the others, he didn't have time to do so much. Although they couldn't bring their cell phones in school, they could still use them at home. Students in this era all knew how to use their cell phones and computers. They also saw the trending news and quickly saw Lin Man. Although from Lin Man's point of view, there was nothing wrong with it, but the students in the class were still a little subtle. As for that male classmate, he was badly scolded. Later on, those videos were deleted due to the protection of underage children. Later on, those that were released were all censored. Tangwa didn't pay much attention to this matter. She didn't expect that a few days after the midterm exams, the old man would bring his children to the school to thank her. Now, the students in the class knew that the girl whose face and voice couldn't be recognized was Tangwa. Because of this, Lin Man shrank back, a little afraid to face it. She felt a little wronged. Who knew that the male classmate didn't want to take responsibility and was full of lies, implicating her? In her heart, Lin Man was a little resentful of the male classmate who lied. She could feel that the students in the class seemed to be looking at her strangely. She often heard some girls whispering, but she didn't know if they were talking about her. When the results of the midterm exams were out, Lin Man felt even more hopeless. They were both late. Why was it that Tanggua was still in first place when she did not finish her paper? She calculated her marks and realized that she did not lose many marks at all. The mission showed that she had failed, but she felt a little more relaxed. Recently, she had not made any progress in gaining Baijan's favor. She even felt that the system was toying with her. If she were to face Baijan, who was obsessed with looks, and gain his favor, wouldn't that be harder than ascending to the heavens? Chapter 3067. Beep! You have gained 10 hatred points from Tanggua. You are rewarded with a beauty pill. When the beep sounded, Lin Man was really excited. When she heard that she would gain Tanggua's hatred points, she was stunned. When she heard that she would be rewarded with a beauty pill, she was a little excited. But wasn't there something wrong with the system? Previously, it wanted her to compete with Tanggua. Now, it wanted her to gain Tanggua's hatred points. Was this something a human would do? She didn't like Tanggua, but gaining hatred points for no reason wasn't good, right? Because it was after class, Lin Man and a few other girls who were close to her sat in the front row. They weren't far from Tanggua's seat. Tanggua also heard the clumsy system giving Lin Man a mission. In the storyline, the system didn't give Lin Man a mission to gain hatred points. Perhaps Lin Man's mission was successful at the beginning. She won first place in the speech competition and got the beauty pill, which changed her biggest weakness. In the end, she gained Baijan's favor and attracted his attention. It was like a rolling snowball. If the mission was successful, she would get more and more things. But she stopped all these. The first thing she stopped was Lin Man from getting the beauty pill. With Baijan's late-stage Yen Kong, it was impossible for him to discover someone's beauty first. Not to mention Baijan, even ordinary people would be the same. Student Tanggua, what's wrong? Lien Jian noticed that Tanggua suddenly smiled. This was a rare sight in the classroom. Moreover, her smile was filled with schadenfreude. Although it was a smile with evil intentions, he felt that as long as student Tanggua smiled, she looked especially good. I thought of something happy. Lien Jian instinctively asked, what happy thing? Why should I share it with you? Tanggua had already returned to her cold self. If Lien Jian hadn't seen her smile when she talked to him, he would have thought that she was a very cold, arrogant, and difficult person to get along with. Lien Jian couldn't answer. It seemed like she really didn't have to share anything with him. Do you want to know? Lien Jian nodded. That honest look of his made the system feel a little sorry for him. Although she knew that he was not that stupid and probably knew that Tanggua was teasing him, she still pitied him. Wait at the school gate after school. Just as Lien Jian was about to ask why they had to wait at the school gate, the bell rang. He glanced at Tanggua and saw a teasing smile in her eyes. However, the phrase, waiting at the school gate, sounded a little familiar. Oh right, it seemed like those students who didn't study hard and were caught smoking in school often told him this. However, those students had been influenced by him. They were currently studying hard and improving themselves every day. It had been a long time since they had asked him to wait at the school gate after school. After class at noon, Yen Gung wanted to go to the cafeteria with Tanggua for lunch. He even said to Tanggua, it's almost the end of the semester. I plan to stay in the library for a while. I'll go with you guys later. He glanced at Lien Jian. Although there didn't seem to be anything between Lien Jian and Tanggua, he was still a little wary. He had thought a lot recently and decided to get closer to Tanggua. He was a little regretful. Because of Lin Man's appearance, he suddenly distanced himself from Tanggua. Lin Man happened to hear this. She, who had been troubled about how to gain hatred points from Tanggua, suddenly brightened. She didn't know if Tanggua would hate her if she joined and pulled Yen Gung over or called Yen Gung away when they were in the library. In her opinion, it was very possible. After all, Tanggua wasn't a magnanimous person. Peak. Chapter 3068. After making up her mind, Lin Man called out to Yen Gung as if she was still as close to him as before. If someone who did not know better, they would think that she was on very good terms with Yen Gung. She had never thought of being flirtatious with Yen Gung. She just treated him as a very good friend, a close buddy. Even so, No girl would be able to accept that the boy she cared about was close buddies with another girl. Their relationship was even closer than hers, right? Lin Manman's thoughts were beautiful, but she had never considered whether Yen Geng was the boy Tang Guo cared about. She had also never considered that her sudden change in attitude towards Yen Geng had already reduced Yen Geng's good impression of her by a lot. Yen Geng, the bulletin board is going to be updated today. Let's go over together after dinner. Lin Manman walked up naturally. The original 3-person group became a 4-person group. She even inadvertently squeezed in between Yen Geng and Tang Guo. Tang Guo, thank you. She really couldn't hate Lin Manman when she was like this. Hatred points. It was impossible to have any hatred points. Lien Jian, thank you. She didn't know what was wrong with this Yen Geng. He suddenly wanted to come over and talk to Tang Guo. His gaze was so warm and attentive, and he even wanted to help get the food. Didn't he know that it was a stressful time for studying now, and that he would ruin Tang Guo's learning environment and distract her? Yen Geng? The bulletin board is going to be updated today? Yen Geng was stunned. Isn't it updated once a week? It's almost the final exams. Lin Manman's face was not red. She was not lying. The bulletin board was usually updated once a week. If there were any small events during this period, some conspicuous places would also be updated. Just like last time when Tang Guo went on a television show, she also took up half of the blackboard. Many people were envious of her. Even she was a little envious. Not many people could go on television shows, especially when she was so authoritative. She stood out in a show full of talents and won first place in the speech competition. Now that the final exams were coming, the bulletin board's content would definitely be updated. After hearing Lin Manman's explanation, Yen Geng didn't have any doubts. This was because this was his mission. If he didn't finish it in the afternoon, it would be during his free time or an hour or two after school. So, he looked at Tang Guo apologetically and said, I might not be able to go to the library later. I'm sorry. It was not easy for him to muster up the courage to approach Tang Guo again. Somehow, he could feel that he had missed a great opportunity. If he had grasped that opportunity, perhaps the outcome would have been different. This might have something to do with Lin Manman, but he couldn't blame Lin Manman. After all, although Lin Manman was sometimes cold and sometimes warm to him, he could feel that Lin Manman didn't have any feelings for him. Tang Guo looked at Yen Geng's regretful expression and felt Lin Manman's anticipation. She laughed in her heart. Lin Manman was probably waiting for her to give her the cold shoulder and then give her some hatred points. It was a pity that she couldn't do as she wished. She didn't hate Lin Manman at all. That stupid system, every time it gave her a mission, it would only make her laugh. Okay. In order not to violate her persona, Tang Guo responded coldly. It seemed to be the case. Lin Manman couldn't figure it out because Tang Guo had always been like this. Peak. Chapter 3069. So, was Tang Guo angry or not? Most importantly, was she angry at her? Did she hate her? She should hate her, right? However, she did not receive a notification from the system that Tang Guo had developed hatred towards her. Could it be that she had not gained enough hatred? That was right. Tang Guo was an arrogant person. Moreover, she had found a legitimate excuse to drag Yen Geng to the board. Even if she was unhappy, she probably would not hate her. Lin Manman, who had done something useless, felt a little unwell. She was absent-minded while eating. Her mind was filled with thoughts of how to gain Tang Guo's hatred. However, she still couldn't bring herself to do something like slapping someone. Moreover, it would be unreasonable of her to slap her for no reason. It did not seem worth it to do such a stupid thing just to gain hatred. What did Tang Guo care about? She probably cared about her academic results the most. Lin Manman felt dejected. If it was more important than her academic results, would she still be in such a miserable state? She would have already won against Tang Guo in the midterm exams. She sighed. After dinner, she dragged Yen Geng to work on the bulletin board. Yen Geng looked at Tang Guo's apologetic face. He was obviously annoyed by Lin Manman's urging. But when he remembered that Lin Manman had helped him before, he suppressed his annoyance. Perhaps Lin Manman just wanted to finish the board as soon as possible. Otherwise, she would have to waste more time. Lin Manman and Yen Gung seemed to have a good relationship. On the way to the library, Lian Jian said casually, Lin Manman's grades seem to have improved a lot. Last semester, I often saw her asking Yen Gung questions. Tang Guo looked at Lian Jian. His serious words really made her laugh to death. So, I suspect that their relationship is not ordinary. Of course, it's just a suspicion. I haven't found any evidence yet. System. This guy was clearly trying to drive a wedge between them, but he still made it sound so dignified. Wasn't it just to remind Madam Host that the two of them might be boyfriend and girlfriend? Although it was suspicious, there were many things that couldn't withstand suspicion. Tang Guo pursed her lips and smiled. Lian Jian really deserves to be the president of the student union. He investigated the male students in the school who were hiding in the corner and smoking cigarettes. He often stared at the female students' ears and asked them to take off their jewelry. You actually want to meddle in the affairs of male and female students? Of course I have to take care of it. I have to make sure that every student in the school studies seriously and prioritizes their studies. Before completing their studies, don't get distracted and don't steal the forbidden fruit. That is the basic responsibility of a student council president. If they don't see it, that's because they're lucky. If they do see it, of course they have to take care of it. Lian Jian gently pushed up the frame of his glasses. His serious look was even scarier than the dean of the school. Tang Guo suddenly remembered that the dean of this school did not have much of a presence. On the other hand, some of the more lively male students had strange expressions on their faces when they saw Lian Jian. No matter how fierce the male students were, they would all turn around and leave when they saw Lian Jian. She guessed that those male students had been reformed by Lian Jian and had turned over a new leaf. Lian Jian, I have a question to ask you. Lian Jian stopped in his tracks and looked at Tang Guo. What is it? Tang Guo took a step closer and asked softly, You always care about other people's male and female students. Have you ever liked a girl? Peek. Chapter 3070. Without waiting for Lian Jian to answer, Tang Guo continued, I'm guessing that you don't have one. If he did, student Lian Jian wouldn't be so calm and serious. Hearing Tang Guo's words, Lian Jian's heart was a little flustered. Actually, do I? Lian Jian struggled internally. Do I? When Tang Guo asked him this question, his mind was filled with her smiling face. He walked quickly to the library. Lian Jian, why are you running so fast? Tang Guo chased after him. Lian Jian seemed to feel that his reaction was too big, and she couldn't catch up. He slowed down and calmed his racing heart. His expression was calm, as if nothing had happened just now. Do I? Tang Guo asked again. She didn't wait for Lian Jian to answer and pretended to understand. Lian Jian panicked even more. In this kind of situation, whether he said yes or no, he didn't feel good. If he said yes, she would definitely ask who it was. If he said no, he couldn't say it. You must have a crush. Tang Guo leaned closer and said with a smile, It must be a crush. Someone as upright and serious as Lian Jian, who also loves studying and is against dating on campus, must be someone who doesn't want to disturb the girl you have a crush on, right? Lian Jian. Actually, it wasn't really a disturbance. Wasn't it good to improve together? He must have been led astray. Lian Jian. Does she know that you have a crush on her? Lian Jian. She probably doesn't. Tang Guo's smile didn't change. Lian Jian panicked. Then when you graduate from high school, will you confess your feelings to her? Lian Jian. System. Haha, what a pitiful boy. The host chased after him step by step. She sealed off all his escape routes. He couldn't say anything. Lian Jian was thinking about what to say when they arrived at the library. You're early. There's no one there yet. Let's sit there. Tang Guo changed the topic and decided not to tease Lian Jian. Students should focus on their studies. How could they fall in love? Let's wait until they graduate and become adults. Besides studying, it's okay to tease male students. The male classmate, Lian Jian, was in a mess. He was completely upset. However, he soon had no time to think about that. Tang Guo wanted to discuss a math problem with him. The two of them instantly immersed themselves in it, and all the distracting thoughts from before were dispelled. Many times, Lien Jian also felt that it was magical. Every time he was distracted by Tang Guo, but on the contrary, she was able to make him quickly enter the state of studying. For the next few days, Lin Manman would call Yen Geng away midway. Sometimes, when Yen Geng was already in the library, Lin Manman would call him out. Occasionally, Yen Geng would be the one talking to Tang Guo, and Lin Manman would come to him with a difficult question. Because of their previous relationship, Yen Geng couldn't very well reject Lin Manman. He didn't find Lin Manman annoying, but it didn't seem right for him to reject her outright when she was asking for his advice. Just like that, Lin Manman interrupted Yen Geng and Tang Guo's conversation countless times. Yen Geng felt a little helpless, but seeing how heartless Lin Manman was, he didn't realize that Lin Manman was doing it on purpose when she would occasionally bring him some water. It was probably because the final exams were coming and Lin Manman wanted to learn from him. That was why she was so enthusiastic towards him. Peak. Chapter 3071. Yen Geng could actually understand this. Yen Geng was frustrated that there was no progress with Tang Guo. Lin Manman was even more frustrated than Yen Geng. She had disturbed Tang Guo and Yen Geng so many times. Did Tang Guo not hate her at all? Did she not hate her? She had called Yen Geng away many times without giving him any face. Did Tang Guo not hate her at all? Did she think that she was a green tea bitch? She had even said to Tang Guo a few times, "I'm sorry, Tang Guo. I didn't want to disturb you, but Yen Geng is the best at drawing anime characters and monsters. Please understand." At that time, Tang Guo's attitude was still cold and indifferent. Lin Manman couldn't tell if she was happy or not, so she thought that she was unhappy. Tang Guo was also not like many people who kept a straight face and said that she didn't mind. She really thought that she had gained Tang Guo's hatred. However, the final exam was tomorrow, and the system's notification did not ring. So, Tang Guo didn't hate her at all? On the morning of the final exam, Lin Manman discovered a truth. Perhaps she was lucky. She saw Tang Guo and Lien Jian walking into the school together. During this time, Tang Guo even smiled at Lien Jian especially beautifully. Lin Manman pinched her sleeves and muttered, "Could it be that I got the wrong person? Tang Guo doesn't care about Yen Geng at all. Has she already been attracted to that nerd Lien Jian?" Because of this, Lin Manman observed carefully. After the final exam ended, she finally confirmed that she had already broken up the relationship between Tang Guo, the female lead, and Yen Geng, the male lead. Now, Tang Guo already had another target. That person was actually that nerd Lien Jian. Then how could she gain hatred? How could she gain hatred? She would have to wait until next semester. She wasn't familiar with Lien Jian and didn't have any contact details. However, she still planned to ask for Lien Jian's contact details on the day she received her results. This day came very quickly. Yen Geng realized that after the final exams, Lin Manman had stopped pestering him. He sighed helplessly. Although Lin Manman was more enthusiastic, she was also more utilitarian. When she needed him, she was especially enthusiastic, but when she didn't need him to explain, she ignored him. At the start, he had thought that Lin Manman had taken a liking to his looks. It was only later that he realized that she had taken a liking to his rather smart brain. On the day of receiving the report card, Lin Manman stopped Lien Jian at the school gate. She had purposely chosen to do so when Tang Guo was around. After all, this was the only way to gain hatred points. Tang Guo could tell what Lin Manman was thinking. She almost slapped her thigh and laughed out loud. Lin Manman was trying too hard to complete the side mission. System, don't underestimate a girl's determination to be beautiful. Classmate Lien Jian, can I have your phone number? Lin Manman plucked up her courage and stood in front of Lien Jian. Although he was a nerd, she didn't know why, but she felt that talking to him was even scarier than talking to Baijian. At this moment, Baijian happened to walk out of the school with sleepy eyes. When he saw that Lin Manman wanted Lien Jian's contact details, he hurriedly turned his face to the side and walked away quickly, as if he had seen something he didn't like. When Lin Man saw it, she was a little angry. That Baijan was really too annoying. It wasn't her fault that he wasn't good-looking. Did he have to be so obvious? Is it inconvenient? Lin Man saw that Lian Jian was looking at her calmly and wanted to retreat. Peek. Chapter 3072. If it's not convenient. Lin Man gritted her teeth. Why don't you give me your QQ number? After all, the student union and our bulletin board team sometimes work together. Also, if there are any problems, I would like to ask Lian Jian. Your results are very outstanding. Yan Geng listened at the side and shook his head speechlessly. He really didn't know what to say about this Lin Man. So she was cold to him because she thought that his standards were not good enough to help her. So she changed her target to Lian Jian. Speaking of which, Tang Guo was the first in the cohort and was more outstanding than Lian Jian. The reason why she didn't look for Tang Guo was probably because she thought that Tang Guo was not easy to get along with. Actually, thinking back to the days when he first came to this high school, Tang Guo was not as difficult to get along with as he thought. Many people actually misunderstood her. She just had that kind of personality. The more he thought about the past, the more stifled Yan Geng felt. If he hadn't joined the bulletin board team and fallen, he might have had a good relationship with Tang Guo. At least, it would have been better than the relationship between Lian Jian and her. Lian Jian gently pushed his glasses up. Have you joined the school's student activities group? Yes, Lin Man answered honestly. The other party's question was too serious. She thought that she had met a teacher. Lian Jian nodded. Then there's no need to add me. If the school has any notice or needs to contact you, the group will have it. And your team leader will also inform you in time. But I want to ask Lian Jian, Lian Jian said seriously. I think that with Yan Geng's current standard, he can still explain questions to you. Your results have improved a lot, which means that he's good at teaching. Since you've improved, don't be half-hearted. If it's someone else, you might not be able to adapt. I think that since Lian Jian is so amazing, his learning method, it might not be suitable for you. Lian Jian still looked very indifferent. Although my learning method is very good, it's not suitable for you. I never use a draft when I do questions, and I don't use a computer. Whether it's 2-digit or 3-digit addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, I do it all mentally. Can you keep up? I've memorized all the formulas of physics, chemistry, and mathematics that I've learned so far. Can be said that I have them at my fingertips. If you want to solve a question, I might be able to get the answer after looking at the question for half a minute. But if I tell you, you probably won't understand. If you can memorize all the formulas in your heart, and if you can calculate 3-digit or 2-digit numbers like me, you can still give it a try. Maybe you can use my learning method. Lin Man. Are you going to reject me so harshly? She looked at Lian Jian and then at Tang Guo. It seemed that when the two of them were discussing the questions, they did not have any draft paper and did not even move their pens. They just stared at the blank questions, their mouths talking fast, and their minds working fast. Student Yan Geng's method is very suitable for you. There aren't many students as patient as you. Lian Jian smiled at Lin Man. There's a holiday coming up. If you can memorize all the formulas you've learned, memorize all the required words, and memorize all the poems you've learned, I can help you with the questions. He almost didn't say that they weren't on the same level, so it wasn't easy to say it. Even if he said it, you wouldn't understand. Lin Man subconsciously looked at Tang Guo. Seeing that she was still cold, she couldn't tell if she had gained any hatred points. Probably not. After all, she didn't seem to be in a good situation now. She might even be happy and think that she was stupid. System. Host. Your cutie is really hardcore. Tang Guo. I suddenly feel a little sorry for Lin Man. System. I still don't know how that stupid nameless system will assign missions to her next. She can't give up on the main mission, but she can give up on the side missions. I think she's going to give up. Just as the system finished speaking, Lin Man had already tacitly agreed to give up on the mission. Memorizing all the formulas, all the words, all the poems was simply killing her. Beep. The host has chosen to give up on the mission of gaining 10 hatred points from Tang Guo. Lin Man let out a long breath. If there was a mission she couldn't do next time, she would just give up directly. Voluntarily giving up the mission system will be frozen for 1 year. Lin Man, was there still hope for the beauty pill in this life? Classmate Lian Jian, do you want me to send you home? Lian Jian actually didn't reject this time. He didn't know why, but he just wanted to sit with her for a while longer. Even if they didn't talk, he was fine with being insulted by her. When Lian Jian got off the car, he suddenly said to Tangua, I think I have a crush on someone. With that, he ran away. Tangua. Why was he so shy? Why did he act like a young lady? Just as she was about to close the door, Lian Jian walked back with a serious expression and said very seriously, I won't disturb her now. I'll confess to her after I graduate. Classmate Tangua, be careful on the road. This time, Lian Jian watched as Tangua got into the car. She turned back and glanced at the bicycle that Lian Jian was driving. Did he really think that she couldn't tell that the price of the bicycle was enough to buy an ordinary car? How shameless, freeloading in the car with a serious expression. System, M. Peak. Chapter 3073. Ever since she had laid her cards on the table with Father and Mother Tang, the two of them would not come home as long as there was nothing going on. If they did not come back to disturb Tangua, Tangua would not look for trouble either. They would only call to inform her if there was a banquet that she, the daughter of the family Tang family, was attending. Their tone was very stiff, and they were not willing to cover up their faces at all. They would only pretend to be close to Tangua when she arrived at the banquet. The two illegitimate children had initially wanted to isolate her at the banquet and make trouble for her. Later, they realized that they were just looking for trouble. Unknowingly, Tangua had made friends at the banquet who were of the same age as her. These few rare friends were not people that the two illegitimate children could pull over. Or rather, it should be said that they could not compare to them. During the holidays, Tangua would be invited to banquets from time to time. At this time, she was at the banquet and chatting with a few new friends. The pair of illegitimate children sat on the other side and whispered to each other. From time to time, they would glance at Tangua. Tangua, those two people are looking at you sneakily. Are you familiar with them? One of the girls asked curiously. Their gaze is like that of a mouse. It's really uncomfortable. The other girls also nodded. Usually, when people looked at them and whispered to each other, they would ignore it. But when the two of them talked and looked at them, it gave them a very uncomfortable feeling. If they were not mistaken, when they looked at Tangua, there was anger and hatred in their eyes. I don't know them. I only know the few of you here. That's not right. Why do I remember that your parents seem to be on good terms with their parents? They even asked you to bring them out to play before, right? They are them and I am me. They know each other, but it doesn't mean that I know them. Tangua's attitude was very obvious, and her friends understood the meaning behind it. In other words, they did not need to care about those two people. They even needed to stay away from them. The reason why they got along well with Tangua was that they thought she was a good person after interacting with her. Secondly, Old Master Lin had said that Tangua was Old Master Tang's granddaughter and Old Master Lin's granddaughter, so they could be friends. After getting to know each other, they quite liked interacting with her. After a few banquets, they became very familiar with each other. In the past, they had thought that she wasn't easy to get along with. They didn't expect that one couldn't judge a book by its cover. As for Yu Ping Ping and Chun Bofiai, the two fellows with sneaky eyes, they had no interest in them at all. Although they had a good relationship with Father Tang and Mother Tang, they had no interest in it and were even a little disgusted. After the banquet ended, before Tangua left the banquet, Father and Mother Tang went out with her. When no one was around, Mrs. Tang asked her, "When did you become familiar with the little ones?" "It's already at the banquet. You only just realized?" Tangua looked at Mrs. Tang in shock. Mrs. Tang's expression turned ugly. "You have to talk to me like that. No matter what, I'm still your mother." Father Tang's face darkened. "What's wrong with your mother asking a few questions? Also, when you play, can you not isolate Yu Ping Ping and Bofiai? What if you bring them along to play? We've already given in a lot. We don't participate in anything you do, and we haven't brought them back. Isolate them. The peak. Chapter 3074. Tangwa seemed to have heard a strange joke. She felt that these two people's brains really weren't working well. Did they really think that just because she was their seed, they could do whatever they wanted? Did they really think that she wouldn't dare to do anything? Did they think that she hadn't told the two old men about this because she was worried about their reputation? She had already told them on the first day. The only reason she hadn't told them was because she hadn't finished her studies and couldn't manage the two companies for the time being. Also, the two old men thought that she needed some training and would give her special treatment when they had time. Before she finished her studies, she would have to trouble them to help her manage the Tang and Lin family's assets for the time being. When the time came, she wondered if they would be dumbfounded. You want to bring them along to have fun? Tangwa glanced at the two of them with a faint smile. She walked closer to them and said softly, "If I bring them along to play, I'm afraid that I'll suddenly remember something unpleasant and slap them in the face. If you don't mind, I can bring them along to have fun. If I'm unhappy, I'll slap them twice. Don't be angry." She was clearly speaking softly, but Father Tang and Mother Tang almost took a step back. Especially Father Tang, who almost slapped her. Tangwa didn't even try to avoid it. Instead, she raised her head and looked at him. "I've said it before. Don't bother me or provoke me. If you make me angry, we'll both be embarrassed. I'm just being laughed at for a while. A lot of people should sympathize with me after that. But it's different for the two of you." Father Tang slowly lowered his hand, and Tangwa walked away with a smile on her face. Father Tang and Mother Tang were so angry that they almost fainted. Father Tang tugged at his tie. "This unfilial daughter. She's gonna make me so angry. If I had known, I wouldn't have created this unfilial daughter," Mother Tang said angrily. "Just you wait. Once we get the shares, we'll chase her out. After getting the shares, this unfilial daughter would be useless." If they weren't afraid that touching her would attract the attention of the two old men, they wouldn't have been so aggrieved. During the entire holiday, Tangwa had a great time. Ever since they had insulted Father and Mother Tang, they no longer dared to say anything to Tangwa at every banquet. As for the two illegitimate children, they would occasionally sneer at Tangwa, but they wouldn't take the initiative to confront her. She didn't know if they had been warned by their parents or not, but they would occasionally sneer at her, but they wouldn't take the initiative to confront her. Seeing that school was about to start, Tangwa had already been taught by the two old men during the holidays. Father and Mother Tang, on the other hand, were in trouble. Originally, after Tangwa fired the chauffeur, she secretly told him about her parents' secret. The driver used this secret to blackmail Father Tang and Mother Tang. The two of them thought that the driver would stop after he gave them a sum of money, especially when he heard that the other party had even left the country. He thought that the other party would never return. After all, the amount that they had given to the other party was not a small amount. She didn't expect the driver to return after a few months. Not only did he come back, but he also called them separately to ask for money. After asking around, they found out that the driver had gone abroad to gamble and lost all his money. That was why he came back to threaten them. The two of them knew that if they didn't solve this problem, the driver's problem would be a bottomless pit. Tangwa didn't know about this. The system didn't pay attention to this either. After all, they could guess that the driver would not let go of the two big fish, Father Tang and Mother Tang. At the peak. Chapter 3075. Tang Tang's parents had some tricks up their sleeves. Later, Tangwa found out that the two of them had used some unknown method to make the driver stop. He didn't threaten the two of them anymore, as if he was still afraid of them. Tangwa originally thought that the driver wouldn't be able to cause any big waves, but what happened next surprised her. The driver somehow managed to find something to threaten the two of them. They were the two true loves of Tang Tang's parents, Yu Ting and Shan Yunshu. After the driver threatened the two of them, not only did they obediently hand over the money, but they also didn't dare tell Tang Tang's parents about this. After hearing this news, Tangwa guessed that the two of them must have some secret that even Tang Tang's parents didn't know about. That secret had fallen into the driver's hands, which was why he was able to threaten them. Dear host, do you want to find something to use against the two of them? No, it's good that they love each other. I'm not interested in helping them find out the truth. Let's just let things develop slowly. With the driver tormenting them, they won't have it easy either. Don't pay attention to them. The driver's existence will definitely make their lives uncomfortable. Tangua's guess was right. Later on, the two of them would find all sorts of excuses to ask Tang's parents for money. They would even use their positions to get some money. The two of them were executives of the Tang and Lin companies respectively. School finally started. Tangua got out of the car and ran into Lian Jian and Yen Geng, who had just arrived at the school gates. Yen Geng happily looked in Tangua's direction, then quietly glanced at Lian Jian. Lian Jian, why are you so early too? I made an appointment with Tangua. Lian Jian gently adjusted his glasses and took out an exercise book from his bag. We agreed to come early so we could look at each other's exercise books. Although they couldn't date, they could do exercises together and help each other correct their mistakes. Even if they couldn't hold hands, doing exercises was the same. System. Smart boy. Yen Geng's vigilance completely disappeared. So this bookworm had been waiting here for Tangua to exchange exercise books with her. Sure enough, he really was a bookworm. Tangua was such a pretty girl, but he actually only wanted to do exercises with her. Yen Geng felt that Lian Jian deserved to be single. With a smile, he walked towards Tangua. Are you free at noon? Do you want to go and have some milk tea together? Since he had made up his mind, he decided not to invite her to the library all the time. Instead, he would bring her to places like the milk tea shop. The girls in the class liked to go to the milk tea shop when they had nothing to do. He saw that those young couples were also secretly meeting in the milk tea shop. Although they didn't dare to hold hands in school, they could still walk side by side and talk to each other. Tangua glanced at Yen Geng, but before she could say anything, Lian Jian walked up with an exercise book. Student Tangua, have you finished your exercise book? Yen Geng, you really don't know what to do. Can't you see that I'm trying to get close to you? Lian Jian, dogs don't have eyes. It's because they have eyes that they came up to stop him. Tangua nodded. It's done. We made an appointment before, Lian Jian emphasized and looked at Yen Geng seriously. Did you make an appointment with him first? Yen Geng felt that something was wrong. It seemed that they didn't make an appointment first. Sure enough, Tangua shook her head. No. Oh, Lian Jian smiled. That's good. I thought you had an appointment and couldn't change the exercise book together. If they changed it together, student Yen Geng wouldn't disturb their study progress. The top. Chapter 3076. I'm going to edit the exercise book with Lian Jian, so I won't be going to the milk tea shop with you. Tangua would still give Lian Jian face. Lian Jian loosened his grip on the exercise book. He was a little afraid that she would go to the milk tea shop with Yen Geng. Yen Geng wasn't surprised that he was rejected. When Tangua was about to enter the school, he hurriedly followed her. Are you free tomorrow? Before Tangua could say anything, Lian Jian stared at Yen Geng. Yen Geng, although some words are a little rude, I still have to say them. Tangua is the top student in the class and the best student in the entire grade. If you ask her to drink milk tea, it will easily disturb her studies. You don't care about your grades, but it's fine if you don't work hard during your free time. But you actually want to bring Tangua down with you. If her grades drop, can you take responsibility? Yen Geng almost wanted to cover his ears. He was wrong. He shouldn't have asked a female classmate to drink milk tea in front of Lian Jian. This guy was as difficult to deal with as Tang Sang reciting scriptures. He heard that the students in the school who were especially arrogant were all taught a lesson by him. Yen Geng, now is the time when you're busy with your studies. Whether you just want to ask Tangua to drink milk tea or use milk tea as an excuse to do something else, I don't approve of it, Lian Jian said seriously. A student's mission is to study hard. If you want to drink milk tea, go by yourself. After being reprimanded, Yen Geng looked at Tangua innocently, hoping that she could help say a few words. Lian Jian was too controlling. If Tangua was willing, They had plenty of time to ask her to drink milk tea. Lien Jian couldn't control it. Tang Gua saw Yen Gung's cry for help and also felt Lien Jian's sudden nervousness. Unfortunately, all his nervousness was covered by his black-rimmed glasses. Especially when he looked so serious, no one would think that he was nervous. This guy really hid too well, and his excuse was also quite good. Yen Gung, I'm not interested in milk tea. Just when her heart was about to jump out of her chest, Tang Gua opened her mouth. I'm only interested in the exercise book right now. If you want to drink milk tea, you can make an appointment with someone you like. Apart from studying, you can still relax occasionally. Yen Gung tried to salvage the situation. Tang Gua shook her head. I don't want to relax. Milk tea is too greasy. I don't like it. The rejection was so obvious that Yen Gung had no choice but to give up for the time being. His expression was a little awkward. I'm going to edit the exercise books. Let's go. Lien Jian whispered to Tang Gua. There are still many books. If we delay any longer, we won't be able to finish editing them. What was there to talk about with a male classmate like Yen Gung who only knew how to play all day? He even wanted to ask her out for milk tea. Don't think that he didn't see through it. He just wanted to affect Tang Gua's grades and distract her. As a student cadre, he knew how to nip some things in the bud, so that the budding of youth love would not be able to grow. At the side, the system was about to die of laughter. When school started, Tang Gua and Lien Jian were basically inseparable. Many people wanted to find something wrong, but they found that these two perverts sat together and only talked about their studies. There was nothing wrong with them. Yen Gung observed these two people every day and didn't find anything wrong with them. Peak. Chapter 3077. Slowly, everyone got used to it. Lien Jian would help get food for Tang Gua and do whatever he could. After all, Lien Jian was a good student. Other than not speaking much, he was easy to get along with and was very warm-hearted. System. He is quite warm-hearted. Most of the time, he treats his host well. Lin Man was more bored this semester. The mission system was frozen for a year and would not give outside missions. Even if there was a main mission that she could do, she could not do anything about that good-looking guy. Baijan was different from Yen Gung. Yen Gung cared more about old friendships. She had helped Yen Gung back then. Now, if she asked Yen Gung for help, he would basically agree. However, Baijan was different. Nothing had happened to him. He was either sleeping or sleeping every day. There was no danger at all. He was also someone who cared a lot about his looks. Usually, he would turn his head when he saw her. As a result, he did not take the initiative to talk to her, even though she had been sitting not far away from him for a long time. Every time she spoke, he would quickly avert his eyes and run away. It was as if he was afraid that no one would be able to tell that he despised her looks. The only thing that comforted Lin Man was that after such a long time, she had lost a lot of weight. She did not look fat anymore. Other than her bad skin, she did not look that good. There were also many girls who asked her how to lose weight. She did not have much experience in this. She could only use the answer that everyone knew. Don't eat snacks, eat on time, and exercise regularly. No one felt that there was anything wrong with such a jack-of-all-trades answer. She could not complete Baijan's main mission and was even despised by him for her looks. Lin Man was really looking forward to it. The mission system was unfrozen and quickly gave her a side mission. She finally understood that if she did not get the beauty pill, she might not be able to complete Baijan's main mission. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Lin Man's mission system was finally unfrozen. Hearing the familiar beep, Lin Man was so excited that she almost screamed. She was really looking forward to the end of class so that the mission could be unlocked later. Now that class was finally over, Lin Man decided not to interact with Tang Gua. This way, she might not be able to trigger any side missions related to Tang Gua. Another beep sounded. Lin Man was extremely excited. She listened carefully to the system's mechanical voice. You won first place in the school's performance program next month. You are rewarded with 1 beauty pill. Number 1 in the performance of the arts program? It didn't seem to be a side quest related to Tang Gua, right? Although it was very difficult to get first place, as long as she operated well and took advantage of the situation, she might be able to get first place, right? Therefore, there was hope for her this time. Sure enough, during class, the homeroom teacher told the class to prepare for the program for next month's party. At that time, the top 3 contestants of all the shows would receive very generous rewards. This school was not short of money, and the rewards were indeed very generous. Lin Man only cared about the beauty pill. She decided on the spot that she had to go back today and think about what she could perform to get first place. She subconsciously glanced at Tanggua. Student Tanggua was so busy with her studies. She probably wouldn't participate in this kind of program, right? After all, rehearsals were very time-consuming. However, the homeroom teacher said, "Students Tanggua and Lianjian, come to the office after class. I have something to ask you." Vertex. Chapter 3078. To be honest, Lianjian was a little nervous to be suddenly called by the homeroom teacher. In contrast, Tanggua was much calmer. She was sure that the teacher was not looking for her for some strange reason. Between her and Lianjian, they were really good partners who studied seriously. The homeroom teacher would never suspect anything. But during the whole class, Lianjian was particularly flustered. His mind was in a mess. After being in high school for so long, this was one of the few times he was absent-minded in class. But his face was calm, and he was wearing a pair of very serious and stiff black-rimmed glasses. Except for Tanggua, no one could see that his heart was in a panic. After class, Lianjian and Tanggua walked side by side behind the homeroom teacher. He was still calm on the surface, but in fact, his back was covered in cold sweat. His mind was in a mess. If the homeroom teacher asked what was going on between them later, what should he say? Say that it was unrequited love and that classmate Tanggua didn't know anything. However, classmate Tanggua really didn't seem to know. Yes, it was unrequited love. After finding an excuse, Lianjian let out a sigh of relief. When he came back to his senses, he found that Tanggua was staring at him curiously. He was so scared that he almost fell down. When they finally arrived at the office, Lianjian's heart still trembled when the homeroom teacher opened his mouth. But when the homeroom teacher spoke, he was stunned. "Classmate Lianjian, I remember that your specialty is piano, right?" On the first day of high school, the homeroom teacher sent a list of specialties so that he could understand the situation of his classmates. If there was any activity, he could directly discuss it with his classmates. It was much cheaper. Lianjian nodded foolishly. "Yes. Is there a problem with performing on stage?" Since it was a specialty and could be filled in, the homeroom teacher certainly thought that he should play well. The main reason he asked this question was to confirm it. Lianjian nodded. "No problem. How could there be a problem? After all, this was really his specialty. His level may not be comparable to those piano masters, but a small performance on stage was enough." The homeroom teacher smiled and nodded. "That's good." He turned to Tanggua. "Classmate Tanggua, I remember that you filled in dance before?" Tanggua also nodded. The original owner did fill in a certain type of dance in the specialties list. Actually, the homeroom teacher knew. After all, the original owner was famous for being multi-talented in junior high school. She was also an outstanding student with good grades. "That's good. What I mean is that it's quite stressful to study now. It was very rare to have a gala program. Your grades are the best in your year. Why don't we work together on the surface to encourage everyone?" The homeroom teacher asked cautiously. Actually, he still wanted to show off to the teachers of the other classes. The first and second place of the cohort were in his class. Not only were their grades good, but they were also multi-talented. Wouldn't the other teachers be envious? Haha. As for the performance, Lianjian had no objections. He just didn't know what Tanggua meant. He subconsciously looked at Tanggua. He didn't know if she would agree. He was still a little expectant. "Do you want me to dance with Lianjian as your accompaniment?" Tanggua asked. The homeroom teacher smiled and replied, "Yes. Can I? The most important thing is that you guys are willing, and it won't affect your studies. If you think that the rehearsal is a waste of time, then forget it." People should know how to be content, right? Just these two outstanding students were enough to make many head teachers jealous. Vertex. Chapter 3079. If Lian Jian is fine with it, then I'm fine with it. The form teacher looked at Lian Jian, who hurriedly said, since Tang Guo is willing, how can I not agree? Performance together. Looking forward to it. The two of them came out of the office. Lian Jian asked softly, when are we rehearsing? In the afternoon or after school? If that's not possible, the weekend is fine too. I don't have anything on during the weekend, so I can spare some time to rehearse. System. This bastard is clearly trying to take up most of the host's time during the weekend. Wasn't he saving what he wanted the most for the last so that he would have a deeper impression and choose the last one? Then let's do it on the weekend. We don't have much time in the afternoon, and there might be other students in school taking up the spare time. Also, we're dancing with the piano, so we need a quiet and spacious place. Forget about the afternoon, I want to go home early. Lian Jian was not disappointed at all. Instead, he was very happy. Okay. Where are we going? To your house. Tang Guo glanced at Lian Jian and smiled. Is your house big enough? Lian Jian coughed lightly and said softly, it's not very big, but it's enough for rehearsal. Starting from this weekend? Sure. Where is your house? Let's start on Friday. We have a lot of time on Friday, so we can rehearse before going back. I'll come back on Saturday. Lian Jian said seriously, then you can come with me on Friday, and I'll pick you up on Saturday. Are we using your bicycle? Tang Guo nodded. Sure. Although it only has 2 wheels, it's still considered a luxury item. It's worthy of me. Lian Jian was speechless. It was as if everything had been exposed. He just didn't like to take small cars and had to be picked up every day. In order not to arouse suspicion, he chose a bicycle that looked similar to a normal one. It was the cheapest one, but he didn't expect her to recognize it. System. If some people heard this, they would probably scold her for being a gold digger. Lin Manman didn't know that Tang Guo and Lian Jian were going to perform at the gala. She thought that the form teacher was just asking about their studies. After thinking for a few days, she decided to perform a skit or a play. It was basically impossible for her to be the first one to finish and get first place. After all, there were many powerful students in the school. Based on the relationships she had with the members of the bulletin board team, she could find a few capable classmates to rehearse a skit or a play together. It had to be funny, meaningful, and touching. It would definitely resonate with the audience, and most importantly, it would win an award. After thinking it through, she selected the members, and Yen Geng was not spared. He couldn't reject Lin Manman's request, so he agreed. In the end, they still performed a play. They felt that a play was slightly more advanced than a skit. She went to sign up excitedly. Seeing that Tang Guo didn't do anything, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. After school on Friday, Tang Guo followed Lian Jian to his house. She guessed that Lian Jian's house was not small. She thought that it might be a big villa, at least not worse than her house. He had never thought that the Lian Jian family was a manor. The venue was definitely enough. Lian Jian, your house is bigger than mine. If it wasn't for the fact that the time wasn't right, Lian Jian would have said, if you like it, you can stay here and treat it as your own home. But now they were all high school students, and they had agreed to only confess after graduation. So he had to bear with it. It's so fragrant here. I'll rehearse at your house in the future. Lian Jian nodded. He was very happy. Peak. Chapter 3080. After rehearsing for the whole afternoon, Tang Guo planned to say goodbye and go back when the sky was about to turn dark. Lian Jian urged her to stay. I've already prepared dinner. Eat and go back. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Lian Jian. He thought he would persuade her for a long time, but he didn't expect to be so impolite. Girls weren't reserved at all. Fortunately, they weren't that reserved. Young Master Lian, should I call young Master Jean over? The butler's sudden appearance and sudden address made Tang Guo fall into deep thought. Young Master Jean? Which young Master Jean? Lian Jian shook his head and refused. No need. You can order takeout for him. He doesn't deserve to eat this. System. Okay. The butler turned around and left. However, he came back not long after. There was someone following behind him. Who else could it be but the sleepy Baijan? Baijan yawned and noticed Tangua. He took a closer look at her and seemed to think that she was quite good-looking, so he chose to sit down. Tangua realized that Lien Jian's face had a rare look of disdain. Cousin, what's good today? As Baijan spoke, he had already called for the dishes to be served. He was especially impolite and took a mouthful of rice first. Lien Jian acted as if he didn't see it. He said to Tangua, ignore him. Let's eat. After saying that, he waved his hand. Next time when you go to a restaurant, order takeout for him. Don't bring it over. Baijan didn't seem to feel that he was being disdained. After the dishes were served, he only cared about eating. When he was eating, he even stared at Tangua for a while. His gaze was filled with admiration. It was as if looking at Tangua made him especially appetizing. His gaze was clear and there was no other meaning at all. Lien Jian was especially unhappy and wanted to throw him out. System. Ha 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 ha. Tangua also had a great meal. She didn't expect Baijan to have such a function. Lien Jian almost went berserk. On Saturday morning, Lien Jian came to pick up Tangua. It was rare for him to take a car. When Tangua looked at the car, she was still a little disappointed. Why isn't it your bicycle? I want to ride that. Lien Jian. Then I'll ride over tomorrow. Tangua nodded and got into the car. Even Jian himself did not realize that there was something wrong with the way they interacted with each other. Their rehearsals went smoothly as if they were born with tacit understanding. The only thing that annoyed Lien Jian was that even if the door was locked, Baijan would still climb over the wall to eat. Not only that, but he also had to watch Li Tangua eat. He could eat 2 more bowls than before. He was so angry that he couldn't stay calm. On the weekend morning, Lien Jian really went to pick up Tangua by bike. Tangua sat at the back of the bicycle and said with a smile, "Classmate Lien Jian, I'm going to hug your waist in a while so that you don't fall. You won't mind, right? System. Now I know why you want to ride a bicycle. You want to take advantage of the young man." "No, I don't mind. Hold on tight later." Lien Jian almost abandoned the bike and left. When the pair of arms wrapped around his waist, he pedaled the bicycle. Ever since he learned how to ride a bicycle, he was the most careful and afraid of falling. Basically, Lien Jian would pick up Tangua every Saturday and Sunday. If it weren't for the fact that she was afraid that other people would notice something, Tangua would have taken Lien Jian's car on Friday. System. Are you addicted to taking advantage of others? On the day of the gala, Lin Manman confidently performed a play with her classmates. She received warm applause and thought that she had a chance to get first place. At the peak. Chapter 3081. At the very least, the previous performances were no match for her play. She sat down and watched the performances seriously, one by one. The more she watched, the happier she got. The beauty pill was just around the corner. Seeing that the performances were almost over, there was only one left. She let out a long sigh. There shouldn't be anything special about the last performance. Everyone was almost done watching. If it wasn't particularly outstanding, the students might leave immediately. But when the beautiful piano music sounded, she was slightly stunned. Was it that good? She was a little nervous. She stared at the stage without blinking. The stage was shrouded in smoke, and she couldn't see the situation clearly. When the smoke slowly dissipated, she stared at the piano first. Because she was sitting close to it, and Lien Jian's bowl cut was especially eye-catching. Even though he was wearing a nice tuxedo, he didn't take off his black-rimmed glasses. There was probably no student in the school who didn't know him. In the eyes of the girls, Lien Jian was the dean. In the eyes of the boys, Lien Jian was a demon king that couldn't be provoked. They didn't expect him to know how to play the piano, and play it so well that it made their ears pregnant. Soon, all their gazes were attracted by the slim and fairy-like figure in the smoke. Their brains entered the beautiful environment with the piano music, and their eyes were attracted by the beautiful figure. After the piano dance, they didn't come back to their senses for half a minute. When they came back to their senses, the entire venue was filled with enthusiastic applause. Tang Gua stopped and came up to salute with Lien Jian hand in hand. Lin Man only saw Tang Gua's face now. She immediately fell backward. Luckily, the students behind her reacted quickly and supported her. Otherwise, she would have fallen badly. Tang Gua? Lin Man's brain was really congested now, and she wanted to faint. She thought that the first place was in the bag, but she didn't expect Tang Gua to appear. According to the response, the first place had slipped away. Lin Man's face was a little pale. The other students noticed that something was wrong and hurriedly sent her to the infirmary. Yan Geng looked at the two people on the stage and felt a little jealous. Although he also knew how to play the piano, his standard was definitely not at Lien Jian's level. He already knew that Lien Jian wasn't that simple, but he didn't expect him to be at a professional level. Luckily, the two of them were just learning from each other. There were no other factors involved. Otherwise, he really might not have a chance. Lin Man took a long time to recover. When she heard that the mission had failed, she was extremely disappointed. Especially as she grew older, she would look at her face in the mirror every day. So what if she lost weight? If she was ugly, no matter how good her figure was, there was no way to save her. What Lin Man didn't expect was that every time a side mission was activated in high school, it was more or less related to Tang Gua. As for the main quest, that was even more hopeless. Baijan, that good-looking dog, no one knew what he was. He got along well with Tang Gua and Lien Jian, and the three of them often had meals together. Moreover, Baijan kept staring at Tang Gua as she ate, as if he saw something special. Every time he saw her, he would put down his bowl and chopsticks, as if he had seen something that would affect his appetite. She had no interest in pursuing a person who repeatedly despised her appearance. Encountering a dog like Baijan, she'd better not touch the main mission for the rest of her life. Vertex. Chapter 3082. College Entrance Exam Graduation. Yan Geng had been longing for this day for a long time. He knew that Tang Gua was studying hard and Lien Jian was warning him. Therefore, he decided that after graduation he would confess to Tang Gua. Regardless of whether he succeeded or not, at least he had fought for it and would not have any regrets. He bought a bouquet of roses, the very bright kind. He even bought a small gift, a crystal bracelet. On the day of filling in his university, he waited at the school gate. When he saw Tang Gua and Lien Jian walking over from afar, he rushed over and said to Tang Gua, I like you. After saying that, he was stunned. That was because Lien Jian was holding Tang Gua's hand as they walked out. Initially, the two of them had been walking side by side and he did not notice it earlier. But now he had no choice but to notice it. The way Lien Jian held Tang Gua's hand tightly was especially eye-catching. I have a partner. Tang Gua smiled at Yan Geng and even held Lien Jian's hand. Lien Jian said seriously, we have already confessed to each other and are together. Kid, you're late. When it comes to chasing a girlfriend, you have to do it once you like her. There's no point in waiting. Even if you can't get her at the start, you have to stay by her side so that others can't take her away. His grades aren't as good as mine and his brain isn't as smart as mine. What an idiot. When did you guys get together? Yan Geng only wanted to pay attention to this. Actually, the two of them getting together was both unexpected and expected. It was as though there was nothing wrong with them being together and they should be together. Lien Jian pushed his spectacles up gently and curled his lips. After college entrance exam. Holy fuck. Yan Geng almost cursed it out loud. Is there a need to be so fast? He could feel the smugness hidden under Lien Jian's spectacles. With a flash of realization, he understood everything. It turned out that what Lien Jian said at the beginning was just an excuse. He didn't allow others to have any ideas about Tang Gua so that he could be with Tang Gua and study openly. How is this a nerd? He's clearly a cunning wolf cub. Tang Gua, do you like him? This was his last chance. Although he knew the chances were slim, he still wanted to ask. I do. Yan Geng looked at Tang Gua's smile and understood that she really liked Lien Jian. Lien Jian was overjoyed. If it weren't for the fact that there were so many people around, he would have taken her home a long time ago. In order for the back seat of the bicycle to be able to carry him, he had customized a new one. He had specially requested that the back seat be more comfortable. Yan Geng watched as Tang Gua sat on the back seat of Lian Jian's bicycle and hugged his waist. The two of them left in a loving manner. His expression was a little sad. There are plenty of fish in the sea. You will meet someone better. Lin Man comforted her with a numb expression. She now felt that she was as pitiful as Yan Geng. She then muttered softly, I don't know why these rich young ladies like this kind of poor guy who rides a bicycle. Giving you up is her loss. Yan Geng turned around and looked at Lin Man. He could clearly see the jealousy in her eyes and the sourness in her words. He finally lost his tolerance for her. If Lin Man hadn't appeared, would he not have lost Tang Gua even if he had been in pain for a little longer? What do you know? Although that's a bicycle, the lowest price is at least a few million. Especially with that very special logo. Anyone who knew this would know that it wasn't cheap. Yan Geng walked away uninterestedly. He was still a little sad. He wanted to find a place to be sad for a while. Lin Man's face was a little red. She felt that Yan Geng was venting his anger on her, so she turned around and left. Tang Gua and Lian Jian were in the same university. She had only stayed in school for a semester before being parachuted into the family Tang and Lin family companies. This was a big move that Tang Gua's parents didn't expect. They wanted to stop it, but it was completely useless. With the elders of the two families personally supporting her, those people were all smart and naturally understood what it meant. They had wanted to trip Tang Gua up and make her retreat. Even if the two elders were supporting her, it would be useless if she couldn't stand up on her own. Peak. Chapter 3083. They never expected that Tang Gua would be able to solve every problem perfectly. Especially when Tang Gua successfully signed the contract with the Bai family and the Lian family, Father and Mother Tang fell into despair. They had always wanted to work with these two families, but they never expected that Tang Gua would succeed. Tang Gua's position became more and more stable. Father and Mother Tang wanted to do something, but they realized that it was useless. They tried to threaten Tang Gua, but it was useless. They tried to play the emotional card, but it was useless. In the end, the two old men saw how capable Tang Gua was, so they transferred the shares to her alone. Father and Mother Tang were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They pointed at her and scolded her for being an unfilial daughter, but it was useless against Tang Gua. They could only watch helplessly as Tang Gua held the power of the two companies alone, especially when the two companies were preparing to merge into one company. Although it was unnecessary, it was just a change of name. The current system would not change for the time being. Tang Gua naturally became the CEO of the two companies. Father and Mother Tang, as well as some of their henchmen, objected, but it was useless. She was the biggest and had the most shares. Another thing was that she was engaged to Lian Jian. This series of operations made countless people's faces light up. Being together with Lian Jian meant that she was also a family with the Bai family. Who didn't know that the Bai family and the Lian family were close? Tang Gua had the ability, the means, the backing, and the powerful fiancé here. Even a fool knew who to choose and who to support. It wasn't that they were going with the wind, but a wise man submits to circumstances. In desperation, Father and Mother Tang listened to the instigation of their two true loves and wanted to create an accident to kill Tang Gua. They were indeed driven crazy to make this decision. But they didn't succeed. Tang Gua even had evidence and successfully sent them to the police station. At this time, more terrible news came. Someone spread the news that Father and Mother Tang were related to Yu Ting and Chan Yunshu. Yu Pingping and Chun Bofiai were their children. There were also rumors that Tang Gua was a woman they had found overseas. Although she was their child, she was just a tool they used. When Father and Mother Tang heard the news, they were dumbfounded. This time, there was no way to salvage the situation. Their two true loves came to visit them and told them that the person who exposed the secret was most likely the driver surnamed Li who threatened them. The two of them were furious. If they had known earlier, they would have thought of a way to make the driver unable to open his mouth. The two of them said that they would not be sentenced for long and would be waiting for them outside with their children. Both of them liked this pair of true love very much and trusted them very much. Thus, they handed over their assets to them to manage and went to the police station without any worries. Although they had lost a lot, they had not completely failed. When they got out, they would still have a chance. The one who had the last laugh would be the true winner. The two of them left with their property authorization letters. Not long after, Tanghua and Lian Jian arrived with a few paternity test reports. They walked up to them with a smile. "What are you doing here?" Tanghua smiled and said, "I'm here to see you and give you a gift." She gave the paternity test reports to the two of them and left with Lian Jian. Later, when the two of them found out that the children they had doted on for so many years were not their children, and that the two so-called true loves were the ones who came to cheat them of their money and were the real husband and wife, would they be furious? Now, those two people had cheated them of all their money. Father and Mother Tang would probably be furious. Even if they were not, they would probably be very unwilling to accept it. Chun Yunshu and Yu Ting were indeed husband and wife. They were high-level swindlers. When they first met Father and Mother Tang, they thought that they were very easy to cheat. When they found out that they were the only daughters of the Tang and Lin families, they became even more greedy. Yu Pingping and Chen Bofiai were their sons and not Father and Mother Tang's. Although it was a little regretful that they did not cheat much, the assets under their names were not small. It was enough for them to live for a long time. After the two of them liquidated the assets, they planned to leave with Chen Bofiai and Yu Pingping to live a carefree life. But when they opened the door, their wrists were handcuffed. "Chun Yunshu, Yu Ting, you are suspected of fraud and murder. Come with us now," the police officer said coldly. The two of them immediately went limp. Fraud of Father and Mother Tang. The murderer, of course, was that unlucky and greedy driver. If they did not kill the driver, they would never have peace for the rest of their lives. After a long time, Lin Man was in a hurry to catch the bus. She was stuck in a traffic jam. Just as she was about to get on the bus, she suddenly heard a beep sound. Her scalp went numb. She quickly looked around and saw a sports car behind the bus. Who else could it be but Tanghua in the sports car? "Get lost, stop beeping. Beep, beep, beep. If you have nothing to do, then beep, 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 beep. You're so annoying. If you can't complete it, then give up," Lin Man said hatefully. "It's useless. Why don't you just die?" "System. Stupid system, you're so pitiful. Ha ha ha, so stupid. It's better not to swallow it." He was afraid that its intelligence would be lowered. Peak. Chapter 3084. Tanghua woke up in a stone house. There were some strange-looking objects in the house. She lowered her head and looked at her own clothes, vaguely remembering who she was wearing this kind of outfit. Miaojiang people. She didn't expect that this time, she would transmigrate to this mysterious people. Since she could transmigrate to this body, the original owner must have a story that made her unable to die in peace. When Tanghua was about to receive the memory, the system's voice sounded, "Host, there's movement in the group. Hurry up and take a look. I just scanned the surroundings. Except for some small insects, there's no danger. Those small insects seem to be sleeping. If you don't disturb them, they won't wake up." Tanghua quickly leaned against the very ethnic bed, closed her eyes, and sank her consciousness into the group. The group was very lively. Almost everyone who was online participated in the topic. She looked through the records one by one, and finally her eyes fell on the list of members next to her. There were a total of 11 people in the group, including her, whose names were colored. At the bottom, there were 2 gray names that had never disappeared. The change was that there was an additional name with a color under the group's colored names. There were only so many people in the group. An additional name was naturally very eye-catching. This name was Shangguan Yungu, and it was a compound surname. It gave people the feeling that this person's identity should not be too ordinary. Ziyun. Why hasn't the newcomer come out yet? Could it be that we were too enthusiastic and scared her? Qi Xiao. Most likely he's secretly observing. Mo Yuntian. Qi Xiao is right. Silently observing for a few days just like us in the past. We didn't talk for a few days. I thought this thing that suddenly appeared was some evil thing that couldn't be thrown away. Margaret. The school bell's last world seems to have ended. I don't know if she's in the new world. Today, I want the school bell to come to my magic world again. Harold. Who doesn't want to? But the stars are falling because of our eagerness. Alan. Why don't we go out and compete? Harold. Get out of here. Piao Miao. It's not easy to get a newcomer. Why doesn't he show up? It's the second day. Shangguan Yungu had appeared in the group yesterday. At that time, there weren't many people in the group, but there were only a few members. While they were chatting, a message appeared on the chat interface. Shangguan Yungu has joined the group chat. As a result, they stopped chatting and even lined up to welcome Shangguan Yungu. It was a pity that Shangguan Yungu didn't appear at all. They didn't know what kind of situation he was in. After so many years, they finally had a newcomer. Their hearts were itching, and they especially wanted to talk to the newcomer. Ziyun, I forgot a very important thing. Why don't we send a red packet to see if the newcomer is lurking? Let's sneak a peek and send a red packet to find out. Qi Xiao. Yes. Hurry up and send a red packet. Just as the two of them were discussing, Tang was sent out a red packet. It was the kind of food that was given out, the kind that looked especially delicious at first glance. Tang's sudden appearance made the people in the group, especially Margaret, so excited that they forgot to pay attention to whether the newcomer would snatch the red packets or not. Margaret. My dear campus belle, you've finally appeared. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Then you must have arrived in a new world. So are you in a magical world now? Vertex. Chapter 3085. Campus Bell. Margaret, I'm sorry. Although I haven't received the memory yet, judging from the surrounding environment, it's not a magic world. Margaret. Dear friends, I'm sorry. I want to be alone now. I want to draw a curse immediately and trap those who dare to break into my forbidden area for 10 days and 10 nights. Then I'll ask the magical beast friends in the forest to treat them well. Since Tang didn't appear in the magic world, Margaret was no longer interested in the newcomer. She fell into a depressed mood. Margaret. I suspect that the god of creation is targeting me. Yes, it must be. If the god of creation isn't targeting me, why hasn't the campus bell come to me? Today I hope the stars fall. Tomorrow the moon and the sun will fall together. My world has fallen into darkness. The god of creation must have sealed his small world so that the campus bell can't find the door to enter. Qi Xiao. Margaret, since we're able to meet here, this girl will meet you sooner or later. Don't be so sad. Although we can't meet, we can still chat. I heard that you took in many excellent students. You should be happy. Piao Miao. Yes. Now the campus bell is here and sent us delicious food. There's also a newcomer who might be lurking. Be happy. Margaret. For your sake, I'll be happy. I want to see what food the campus bell sent this time. I saw the newcomer secretly receive the red packet. He's lurking. The red packet sent by Tangua was corn on the cob. In a certain world, she personally planted it and cooked it in the system space. Time in the system space was static. What was put in was the same when it was taken out. Since the newcomer, Shangguan Yungu, received the red packet, it was only a matter of time before he spoke. Taking advantage of this time, she chatted with her friends in the group. There was no danger outside for the time being. She was eager to receive the memory. Now, after every world ended, she would take some time to chat with her friends in the group. A long time ago, every time she ended a world, she would lie down in the heavenly spring to calm her emotions. Now, she was living happily in every world. It had been a long time since she laid in the heavenly spring. Other than going to see if another lamp would light up, she would spend the rest of her time chatting with her friends. While Tangua and the others were conversing in the group, Shangguan Yungu, who had secretly received the red packet, looked at the corn cob in his hand in shock, his face full of vigilance. What are you? How did you end up in my hands? Why aren't you talking? Who sent you here? Shangguan Yungu had been observing the strange frame in his mind for a whole day. He was persecuted and fell down the mountain. He was lucky enough to survive, but he believed that those assassins would never let him go. He fled all the way and finally escaped with his life. He hid in a cave in a dense forest. He couldn't find those people for the time being, but he was seriously injured and couldn't move. He was basically waiting for death in the cave. When the wild beasts found him, he would probably become food for the wild beasts. Just yesterday morning, he woke up in a daze and felt that something was wrong. As a result, a frame suddenly appeared in his mind. That group of people kept saying some strange things. Vertex. Chapter 3086. Just now, a red frame popped up on the frame, and his curiosity made him click on it. As a result, a corn cob appeared in his hand. At first, Shangguan Yungu thought that the corn cob was some kind of monster, but after a while, he smelled the fragrance and his stomach growled. He was still observing the situation in the group and found that many people were saying that the food sent by the school bell was the best. This corn was really fragrant. Shangguan Yungu, who was very hungry, finally couldn't help it and gnawed on the corn cob. When he took the first bite, only one sentence flashed in his mind. It's really fragrant and tastes good. Later, the people in the group sent a lot of red packets to eat, and Shangguan Yungu quickly poked them each time. Food would appear in his hand. He had no problem eating it before, so he was really hungry and didn't care about anything else. He just took it and ate it. But he still didn't speak, preparing to observe for 2 more days. Shangguan Yungu didn't speak for the time being, and the people in the group weren't in a hurry. Anyway, no matter how good a person was at holding it, they couldn't hold it for 10 days. Not to mention 10 days, if he could hold it for 5 days without speaking, they would be very impressed. When Tangua left the group, she also said, "When everyone is free these days, send some food. I guess the newcomer is short of food. When he feels safe, he should speak." Qi Xiao. "Okay, sister, you go to your thing. With us here, we won't let the newcomer starve to death." Mo Yuntian. "Ha ha ha. A newcomer finally appeared. How can we bear to let him starve to death?" Margaret. "Just treat it as doing a good deed. Let the school bell come to the magic world as soon as possible." Shangguan Yungu looked at these words and felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Once upon a time, he muddled to the point of lacking food and clothing. However, now he was not so repulsed by this strange frame that suddenly appeared. It was just that he didn't want to show his face for the time being. Tangua had already left the group, but she didn't get up, but received the memory. The identity of the original owner was the successor of Miaojiang's Holy Gu. Originally, the successor of the Holy Gu should be surnamed Miao. It was said that most of the successors of the Holy Gu were betrayed by men. It was such a coincidence that the offspring left behind every time was a daughter. This daughter also took the surname Miao. However, things were different in her generation. Her surname was Tang, and she followed her father's surname. The reason was that her parents were truly in love with each other. They didn't use the love gu to connect the two of them. Most importantly, Tangua's father had died for her mother. His devotion to her mother was acknowledged by all the clansmen. When her mother suggested that Tang would take her father's surname, no one objected. However, her mother was also seriously injured at that time. After passing everything to her, she followed her father. The sincere feelings between them made the people in the clan believe in love again. They didn't reject outsiders as much. In fact, there were even many people in the clan who didn't oppose marriage with outsiders. The original owner was 17 years old and had great talent. Her gu skills had reached great success and she was the saintess here. She had the highest status. Even if the clan leader saw her, he would have to be respectful to her. Originally, a young lady with such a noble status, who did not concern herself with the affairs of the outside world, and who was supported by a group of clansmen, should have led a happier life. All of this tragedy came from the intrusion of a group of outsiders. Not only did they intrude upon their clan, they also intruded upon this little girl's destiny. Vertex. Chapter 3087. One of the intruders was called Shi Jing. He was the male lead of this world. He came to Miaojiang with a purpose. He had a lover, and they had gone through a lot of hardships together. It was not easy for them to be together, but his lover was dying soon. He couldn't accept this reality and sent people to ask around. Because the members of the clan had married outside, some of the secrets of the clan were naturally known. Shi Jing heard that the Miaojiang clan had a sacred medicine that could bring the dead back to life. Not only could it let the person he loved continue living, it could also heal the damage done to her body. No matter if it was true or not, he brought people here. He came with some hope, but he didn't expect to meet the previous host who was playing outside. The previous host felt like this person was an old friend. She felt that he was very interesting, especially the things that Shi Jing brought in from outside. She liked them and had a good impression of this person. Shi Jing had seen many people and guessed that the previous host's identity wasn't simple. So, he catered to her and hoped to obtain information about the Miaojiang sacred medicine. When the previous host found out that Shi Jing wanted the sacred medicine, she became vigilant. She wasn't a fool. Who in the outside world wouldn't want the sacred medicine if they knew about it? However, seeing that Shi Jing had brought her so many new things, she revealed some information appropriately. Saying these words was actually to make Shi Jing give up. This was because the sacred medicine of Miaojiang couldn't be given to an outsider. Even if she had a good impression of Shi Jing, she wouldn't give the sacred medicine to him. Moreover, the sacred medicine was guarded by the entire clan. It wasn't something that belonged to her alone. If Shi Jing wanted to obtain it, he had to get the agreement of the clan members. Shi Jing knew that things were difficult and was very disappointed. However, he didn't give up. He asked around and found a way to obtain the sacred medicine. That was to join the Miaojiang clan. How could he join? Other than marrying into the Miaojiang clan, there seemed to be no other way. However, for the woman he loved, he decided to give up on himself. He would stay in the Miaojiang clan and let people bring the sacred medicine back to save her. Compared to watching her die, he would rather have her live. With this decision, his relationship with the original owner became closer and closer, especially after hearing many stories about the previous host's parents. He knew that if he wanted to obtain the sacred medicine, not only did he have to move the previous host, he also had to move the entire Miaojiang clan. So, he tried his best to be good to the previous host and be friendly to everyone, letting everyone see his infatuation. He also calmly said that he wanted to obtain the sacred medicine, but he also wanted to be good to the previous host. Just like this, the previous host was moved by Shi Jing. Many clan members believed that this young man was sincere and thought that their union was the best. There was only one person who didn't think highly of their union, and that was the clan leader. There were countless men in this world. There were many that were better than Shi Jing. And there were many people that were better than Shi Jing. But at that time, the original owner had already been moved by Shi Jing. How could she listen to these words? The clan leader knew that he couldn't persuade him otherwise, so he came up with a suggestion. Chapter 3088. Why don't you let him swallow the love goo? Anyway, your relationship is firm and the love goo won't affect anything. The better your relationship is, the longer your life will be. The host agreed to the suggestion of the clan leader. The main thing was that the clan leader didn't say that as long as their relationship didn't change and even got better, the love goo would be beneficial to their bodies. Moreover, in the future, they could share lives and die on the same day. This represented the loyalty of the descendants of Miaojiang's holy goo. Hence, the clan leader added the matter of swallowing the love goo as a part of tomorrow's wedding ceremony. Shi Jing and his friends didn't expect that their wedding ceremony would have such an environment. Although the members of the clan felt that it was strange, they weren't surprised. It was true that there was such a thing when one married an outsider. But many members didn't. Thinking that the host was a saintess, they wouldn't suspect anything if they swallowed the love goo to protect their saintess. In order to save his beloved, Shi Jing swallowed the love goo. After the two got married, Shi Jing obtained the legendary Miaojiang's holy medicine and asked his friends to bring it back for his beloved. As for himself, he stayed behind to fulfill his promise. He even sent someone to pass on the message that they were already done. Shi Jing's beloved was naturally the female lead. Her name was Xie Qingxue. They experienced many things together and finally got together. In the end, when she was critically ill, Shi Jing left. He even told her that he had broken up with her. He even said that he liked someone else and married someone else. After Xie Qingxue recovered, she was very angry and disappointed in Shi Jing. In the following year, Xie Qingxue lived in a muddle-headed state. No matter what, she couldn't forget Shi Jing. In the end, she decided to forget Shi Jing and married the infatuated man who had always been by her side. After Shi Jing's friends found out, they stopped the marriage and told Xie Qingxue the truth. Xie Qingxue left the wedding in tears and went to find Shi Jing. She felt that Shi Jing had sacrificed too much for her. She had to find him and be together with him. Xie Qingxue's arrival caused a series of events. Shi Jing couldn't forget Xie Qingxue. The host also knew the truth and was very angry. Both sides had conflicts. In order to protect Xie Qingxue, Shi Jing often refuted the host. Because of this, his love gu even acted up. Because he didn't love Tanggua, there was no love between them, so he would be bitten by the love gu. In the middle, a series of things happened. In short, the original host was the evil supporting female lead in their world. However, in the end, the Miaojiang tribe encountered a crisis. She wanted to protect the entire Miaojiang tribe. She disregarded the backlash of the love gu and helped him remove the gu and let the two of them go down the mountain. Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue lived a free life. They both thought that today's happiness was earned by themselves. If it weren't for the Shi family and Xie Qingxue's real identity being exposed and the backing behind them being used to threaten the Miaojiang tribe, the original owner wouldn't have let them go. After the two of them lived happily ever after, due to the backlash of the love gu, the original owner would suffer a heart-wrenching pain every day, living in a sorry state. The recipe for the Miaojiang sacred medicine had long been lost. The pill that was given to Shi Jing was the last one. Without the sacred medicine to cure it, the original owner of the body eventually died from the backlash of his emotions. As for Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue, their love for each other naturally came to fruition and they loved each other for the rest of their lives. Although the Miaojiang tribe was saved, because the saintess did not leave behind a successor, she died and gradually declined. Vertex. Chapter 3089. Tanggua had just finished reading the memories and before she could say a word, there was a knock on the door. Because she had just read the memories, she guessed who was looking for her. She got up and opened the door. The person standing outside was indeed the kind face of the Miaojiang Holy Gu tribe's patriarch with a walking stick in her memory. Patriarch, why are you here? Tanggua asked knowingly. At this time, the male lead Shi Jing had already confirmed his relationship with the original owner. Shi Jing's sincerity not only moved the original owner, but also all the members of the Holy Gu tribe except for the patriarch. Currently, the tribe members were enthusiastically showing them the wedding date. The Miaojiang Holy Gu tribe lived in a remote place deep in the mountains and forests. If they didn't marry outsiders recently, they would be isolated from the world. Even if they married outsiders, they would only bring in some new things from the outside. They still couldn't change the deep-rooted ideas of these tribe members. The original owner suffered another loss. Shi Jing and her got married in the tribe. The people of the Miaojiang tribe were isolated from the world. They didn't care about things like marriage certificates. Later, Shi Jing and Xie Qingxue's people thought that the original owner forced Shi Jing. They thought that she threatened Shi Jing with Xie Qingxue's life so that Shi Jing had no choice but to be with her. At that time, many people were still glad that they didn't get a marriage certificate. Otherwise, it would be really troublesome. In fact, Shi Jing had a purpose. He deliberately made her and the tribe members have a good impression and wanted to get the sacred medicine. It wasn't that the original owner used the sacred medicine to force him. Besides, the sacred medicine was very precious to the Holy Gu tribe. Shi Jing wanted to get such a precious thing without paying a price. That was wishful thinking. As a result, when Xie Qingxue came, even if the original owner's attitude was too extreme, she didn't want Xie Qingxue's life. However, Shi Jing couldn't bear to see Xie Qingxue suffer any grievances. The contradiction was triggered. Pair of pitiful lovers. Anyone who heard it would sympathize with them. In the end, it was the original owner's so-called vicious woman's fault. It was as if she deliberately separated the two. No one thought that when she met Shi Jing, the original owner was only 17 years old. When they got married, she wasn't even 18 years old. A little girl who was not even 20 years old and had been living in a place isolated from the rest of the world. How could she stand Shi Jing's sweet words and honeyed words? Even on the night of their wedding, the two of them did not become a real couple at all. It was still Shi Jing's flowery words, saying that in his eyes, she was not an adult yet. They had to wait until she was an adult before they could truly be together. In fact, it was just Shi Jing's excuse. He didn't want to betray the woman he loved. The people in the clan had no concept of marriage certificates, but Shi Jing did. But he didn't tell the original owner that when they reached a certain age, they could get a marriage certificate. Only then would they be legally married. By the time he came back to his senses, Tangua had already invited the clan leader into the house and poured him a cup of tea. "Patriarch, you look a little unhappy. Did something happen?" Miao Xiao took a sip of tea and looked at Tangua lovingly. "Have you really decided to marry that foreign boy called Shi Jing?" "Patriarch, are you reluctant to part with me?" Tangua asked with a smile. The original owner's personality was like this. Naive and lively, she was very liked by the clan. Miao Xiao gave a cold snort. "Our Holy Gu tribe saintess is looking for a husband, not getting married." The peak. Chapter 3090. What's there to be reluctant about? After we get married, you'll still be living here. What I mean is, you've only known each other for 3 months. Do you want to think about it more? Shi Jing is an outsider after all. Although he looks good now, I think it's better to observe him for a few more days. After a long time, it'll be clear whether he's good or bad. Miao Xiao sighed. "Girl, you're so young. There's no need to rush. Shi Jing is just a little better looking. How big is this world? There must be many people better than him." If she had transmigrated earlier, Tangua might have used other methods to make Shi Jing suffer. But now, the two of them were about to get married and were choosing a date. If she suddenly changed her mind, not only would it make the clansmen feel strange, but it would also make Shi Jing suspicious. Anyway, Shi Jing only wanted to cheat the sacred medicine, so she would play with him. But this time, no one would help him solve the love gu problem. Sacrificing herself to help a bad guy, she didn't have such kindness. As for the clansmen of Miaojiang's Holy Gu tribe, with her ability, she could certainly protect them. So the patriarch is afraid that I'll be bullied? Have you forgotten that I'm the successor of the Holy Gu? If anyone dares to bully me, I'll release 3,600 types of gu to bite him to death and make him beg for death. Miao Xiao was amused and shook his head. Our Holy Gu tribe has always valued feelings. Once we're sincere, we'll easily soften. I asked you to think about it for a few more days because I'm afraid that you'll be taken advantage of. I'm also afraid that the outsider isn't sincere. Patriarch, it's too late for you to say that. We're about to get married. Also, I'm not the one getting married. He's the one being recruited. If he really dares to do anything to me, can he walk out alive? Miao Xiao could hear Tangua's determination and could only nod. Okay, I knew I couldn't persuade you when I came. I just feel that he came for his own purpose. Now that he's marrying you, it might be because of his purpose. The entire Holy Gu tribe knew that Shi Jing wanted the sacred medicine of Miaojiang. At first, they were vigilant, but now, they were moved by Shi Jing's sincerity. The members of the Holy Gu tribe were all sentimental people. As long as Shi Jing was sincere to their saintess and was willing to stay in the tribe, they wouldn't have any objections even if it was for the sacred medicine. Coming all the way here to ask for medicine, he must be someone who valued friendship. It was just like the love between the former holy maiden and her husband. The man who had died for the former holy maiden had been deeply engraved in their memories. Moreover, many of the clan members had taken in husbands from outside and married young ladies from outside. Their lives were flourishing, so they didn't object to this. Patriarch, you don't have to worry about this. I believe that Big Brother Shijing is someone who values friendship and loyalty. He definitely won't let me down. Didn't he swear in front of the entire tribe that he would stay here? Miao Xiao wanted to say that the people outside were extremely treacherous. They only deceived innocent and gullible little girls like her. This oath could be made, but it could also be broken. However, because of the matter between Tanggua's parents, he was a little hesitant. After all, Tanggua's mother, Miao Yutsue, and father, Tang Heng, had also encountered many obstacles. At that time, most of the people in the tribe had opposed it. Later, the two of them got married and were incomparably loving. This changed the impression of the entire tribe. The apex. Chapter 3091. In addition, Tang Heng had sacrificed his life for Miao Yutsue, so they respected this man from the bottom of their hearts. The people of this tribe valued relationships. It was impossible for them not to be moved by someone who was willing to sacrifice himself for his lover. Therefore, Miao Xiao did not object to Tanggua and Shijing. The tribe was optimistic about them, and Tanggua was persistent. It was useless for him to object alone. Besides, as long as the Holy Maiden did not endanger the tribe, they had no right to object if her husband was willing to stay with them. All right, I won't object to this matter. But after you get married, if that kid has any ulterior motives, I'll get someone to break his legs and throw him out. Just don't stop him then. Miao Xiao decided to find Shijing later and warn that kid to let him know that the Holy Gu tribe in Miaojiang was not to be trifled with. If he dared to bully and betray the Holy Maiden, his legs would be broken. Patriarch, I suddenly have some enlightenment. I plan to raise Gu in the mountains. Tanggua thought of some things that would happen later and decided to cultivate the little things in the original owner's memory. Miao Xiao naturally would not object to the Holy Maiden's enlightenment. He was especially happy. Then I'll send 2 people to follow you. They will do chores for you and bring you food. Okay, I'll talk to Brother Shijing about this later. Miao Xiao's mood was obviously much better. Not bad, not bad. Since you have enlightenment, don't forget to practice Gu even if you are about to get married. You are still young now. In a few decades, you will definitely make our Holy Gu tribe stronger. Miao Xiao left in a good mood. Before Tanggua went to find Shijing, Shijing came to find her. He came to send her beautiful jewelry. Although Shijing planned to marry into the tribe, he had a few assistants who could help him run back and forth and arrange the company's matters. Now, he had to show enough sincerity to deal with this marriage, even if he did not want to marry the Holy Maiden of the Holy Gu tribe at all. But in order to save the person he loved, he had to do this. He had to make such a choice. As long as the person he loved could live, he could stay here for the rest of his life. Xiaogua, do you like these things? Shijing asked. Tanggua looked at the jewelry one by one. She had to admit that Shijing was quite comprehensive. These accessories were all good stuff. I like everything that Big Brother Shijing sends. Even if it's just a grass ring, I'll still like it. System. Hey, host. Aren't you afraid that some people will hear what you just said and get jealous? At that time, I'll have to coax her again. Tanggua, he's not here, is he? She said something to coax this heartless Shijing. That person can't hear you. System. Where is that fellow? Hurry up and come over. Your wife is lying outside again. Shijing did not suspect Tanggua. In his eyes, Tanggua was just a 17 or 18-year-old girl. No matter how powerful her Gu skills were, she was still an innocent and ignorant person. He also knew that Tanggua liked him. At this time, he really wanted to stay here for the sake of the sacred medicine. If it weren't for those accidents later, perhaps he could have pretended to like her for the rest of his life. Big Brother Shijing, I have some understanding of Gu techniques. I will be going to the mountains to practice Gu techniques later. I haven't been here for the past few days, but I will be back the day before the wedding. Shijing knew that Tanggua was the Holy Maiden and had very powerful Gu techniques. Peek, you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.